Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I am super happy you've all been able to join us here today. Welcome to Innovation Guelph Presents Toolkit Tuesday. Today's session is called Tools to Solve Tough Challenges and Grow Your Business with MaRS Startup Services. You know, we all know that the future rests in the hands of entrepreneurs. And this journey is tough. And to succeed, we need to search out advice and support wherever we can find it. So in addition to the support from your local regional innovation center, like us here at IG, MaRS, who is also a regional innovation center, aims to provide the most sought after integrated and high impact training to help entrepreneurs scale their companies. So while you do not need to be a client of MaRS to access these services, it's a great way to complement your growth journey here with us or with any regional innovation center. So before I introduce our speaker, Neda, today, I have a little bit of housekeeping first. Today's session will be recorded and posted publicly on Innovation Guelph's YouTube channel. So we ask that you turn off your mics for the presentation, and if you have any questions, you just type them in the chat box below. Jordan will be monitoring the conversation and will pose your questions at the right moment to do so, and of course, during the last 30 minutes of today's Q&A interactive session. So to experience today's presentation in American Sign Language, please pin or spotlight the presenter, Neda, and both the interpreters, Chris and Chad, to the top of your gallery. In addition, anyone in the session today can access the Zoom closed caption function by clicking the closed captioning option at the bottom of your screen. So just in case someone here doesn't know who I am Nikki Campo. I'm a program manager at Innovation Guelph, and I'm super happy that you guys have decided to join us today. I'd like to just take a quick moment to thank our corporate sponsors. There's ISU Corporation, Marexis, Miller Thompson, OKR Financial, Reese Informatica, Invest in Guelph, and of course BDO. We're so very grateful for their generosity and support in everything that we do. So in addition, Sign Language Interpreting Associates of Ottawa, we thank you. We thank you for providing ASL interpretation at these Toolkit Tuesday sessions. Thank you very much. Quickly before I hand over the screen to Neda, I'd like to briefly introduce Innovation Guelph to you. Well, many of you on the call today are clients, mentors, partners, and supporters. There are quite a few of you on the call today who might not know too much about us. So Innovation Guelph is one of 17 regional innovation centers in Ontario. We are located in Guelph, and we serve the entire region of Southern Ontario and have a national program. So this means that while most of our clients are relatively close by in the Guelph-Wellington area, we actually have clients in BC all the way to Nova Scotia. We work with clients, supporting them through multiple stages of business growth, from startup to scaling enterprises. And we have lots of programs and workshops and mentorship sessions. We even do a big trade show. So I'm going to let you all in on a secret. We have something exciting coming back this fall. The Innovation Expo is coming back this October, so stay tuned to your social media for more information on that. We'll be revealing information very shortly. Now, I won't take any more of your time right now. I'm going to introduce our speaker today, and we're going to get the show on the road. So please welcome Neda Tocheva to the Toolkit Tuesday show. It's now a show. Anyhow, it is Tuesday. Neda is our senior manager in the Knowledge and Insights team at MaRS. She leads a product team who strategizes, manages, develops practical, actionable products for entrepreneurs who want to solve society's greatest challenges. Her portfolio of both digital and in-person products managed by Neda reaches more than 3,000 participants across Canada each year. So in addition to Neda's work at MaRS, she's an agile and operational efficiency advocate who works with teams to help them find clarity, prioritize work, and be customer focused. Prior to MaRS, Neda worked as an account manager in the clean tech sector for solar providers across North America. She holds an honors Bachelor of Science from the University of Toronto and numerous certificates, including Business Model Innovation and Value Proposition Design Workshop from Strategizer, Project Management from U of T, and Seth Godin's Alt MBA. So we are definitely in good hands. Over to you, Neda, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Mickey, and for having me here with everybody that's present in the Innovation Guelph community. I'm super excited to talk to you about some of the services that MaRS provides and that are completely available for free and accessible online predominantly through our different digital platforms. I have to say that we do work very closely with Innovation Guelph, and I do encourage you to become clients of Innovation Guelph so that you can tap into additional resources that MaRS provides actually to all regional innovation centers that are specifically allocated for clients and exclusively to clients. With that, I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right. If I could get just a thumbs up that you can see everything. Awesome. Okay, so I am here to talk to you about MaRS Discovery District. And for those of you who don't know MaRS is most well known for the physical space. We are an innovation center, just like all 17 other regional innovation centers in Ontario. We're located in Toronto. And our main focus is on science and technology innovations and entrepreneurs. We predominantly work with later stage companies, but the work that I do and the work that I provide to entrepreneurs actually spans all of the different stages of development and spans across many different sectors and technologies and even food and agro businesses. So for those of you on the call who aren't from a technology sector, do know that our resources are available to you as well, and oftentimes can be leveraged for the particular problems that you have and will help you practically and tactfully actually try to solve them. I think Mickey mentioned this already, but our purpose is really in building and providing the most sought after and high impact products to help you in your growth journey. All that we aim to do is to find the right problems and solve them as best we can to really support you and to enable you in growing that company to a scaling stage. And hopefully down the line into a unicorn as everybody is trying to chase that dream in Canada. The reason this is important and why we try so hard to support entrepreneurs, especially in the digital era and digitally, is because most startups fail. In fact, 90% of startups actually fail. And most of about 42%, this is data from Forbes. They did an entire survey of entrepreneurs across the US. And one of the main reasons why startups fail is because they build things that nobody wants. And this is the first challenge that we always help entrepreneurs solve. So our resources, and I'll mention most of them later on, but the first one that's highly, highly impactful and very important is getting out there and talking to customers, doing interviews with them and understanding their true base problem that you are creating a solution for, and understanding what is that segmentation of the market? How many people have that problem? How deep is that problem? And are they willing to pay for it at the end of the day so that you have a successful and profitable business? So one of our programs is called the Customer Development Immersive. It is completely online, on demand, accessible to you at any point in time. And what we do during that program is we teach you the entire process of customer development. And that involves, how do you interview clients? What are the right questions to ask them? How should you ask them so that you remove bias? And then afterwards, how do you analyze the data to extract the right themes and ultimately at the end come up with a very encouraging, validated value proposition that positions your brand and your business in the right way to the customer that you're actually targeting. And this is just a quote from Trevor, who participated in the program, and he felt that he was more equipped than ever before to correctly approach and understand his market so that he can build solutions that they actually want and that actually addresses the real problem. As Mickey mentioned, there's, I think, numerous interpretations of this exact same projection of growth and journey of different ventures that many of the innovation centers across Ontario utilize. So you might hear just growth, or you might hear early stage as reference, but really what they are classified as, and the way that MaRS classifies them, is using the Marmer venture stages. Marmer is the founder of the startup Genome. And you can find lots of information online on this, as well as the original studies that were done by Startup Genome to define these different stages. And the reason this is really important is it gives you a bit of a roadmap of, I'm an entrepreneur, there's so many problems to solve. Where do I even begin? And how do I know that I'm moving forward in the right direction? What are the right metrics I should pay attention to? What are really the stages that you start to work on, that you start to notice that you're gaining that traction and moving forward in your trajectory? And the 5 that we utilize at MaRS are ideation, discovery, validation, efficiency, and scale. I'll go into a little bit of detail across all of these stages, but what I want you to do is to, as I'm talking, think about what stage am I at right now as an entrepreneur? And what are the components that in the previous stage I may have not yet validated or not yet completed, even though I have already transitioned or gained some traction to move on to that next stage. And just to give you context, the reason this is important is because all of our products and programming that is accessible virtually are actually classified under these different categories. We build products for specific stages. And this is how we ensure that what you are receiving is specific to your needs and that it solves your particular problem. Some of the later stage entrepreneurs that may have been through this many times, there are probably products that you're not going to find as useful because you're already at a later stage. And this is where really the work that Innovation Wealth does comes into huge play. So connecting with an advisor and really leveraging some of the additional workshops and events that are opportunities to you. That is where you can gain that bespoke, high-valued service that will help you on your specific situation. So let's talk about the different stages. Ideation is really all about a solid idea. So this is the napkin drawing on the on the table. It's about the really defining who is it for, what is the problem you're solving. And at the end of the day, what you're trying to understand is there a business here? With this idea that you have, can you actually formulate a great business? So some of the questions that we encourage you to think through and through the resources that we provide are things like, what would a low fidelity, minimal viable product look like that you can test within market? What's the market size that you would be targeting with this problem? Would your finances work out? So can you think through the early stages of the business model and how potentially this will make you some money? And additionally, what's really important for a lot of highly scalable businesses is the IP component. So is there intellectual property within that product that you have that will set you apart within the market and really give you an advantage? The second stage is discovery. And this is where you're trying to create a proof of concept. So your MVP is developing at a later stage. But the main components here are those conversations with your customers. You're having the face-to-faces, or in this situation, the virtual face-to-faces, and you're having the interviews with your customers to understand the problems, start to formulate your business model in a more validated state. So each component of the business model you're thinking through, you're really validating those components. So can this actually make money? What are the different partners you're going to need to involve? What are your different channels that you're going to distribute it through? And this is usually the component where you start to think about also the full supply chain and the regulatory components. So for those of you within the food space, even the clean tech space or the health space, there's oftentimes regulations, and the regulatory space becomes an important component to your business model. And figuring this out early on actually sets you up for great success down the line. This is also the stage where you typically tend to get very early funding from mostly friends and family, and most entrepreneurs dip into their own savings, refinance their mortgage, or find other grants and incentives that are available to them at the early stages to fund their operations and to really get a little bit of traction. It's important to remember that one of the key aspects of the discovery stage is pivots. As you're gaining more insights from your customers, that is how you will begin to formulate new ideas and actually have a better path forward by injecting pivots. You don't think of them as failures from your original thought process on that product. It's really about you having data and driving decision-making and strategic decisions within the organization with data that you have from your business. So keep always in mind that 90% of startups fail, and 42% of those are because nobody wants their product. This is that moment for you to ensure that the product you're creating is something somebody really wants. The next stage is validation, and this is where you get some of that traction and a bit of market acceptance. So this is a key stage, and it's because it's typically the make it or break it one. It is where you begin to actually start to sell your product. It is where you are getting prepared for repeat sales. You're starting to formulate your back office systems, and you're really becoming more of a company at this stage. This is also the stage that you start to see some pre-seed or seed funding come into play, and where angel investors are really, really important. And then we go on to efficiency and traction. This is the stage that you have found now some product market fit. And if you've ever been familiar with the hockey stick scenario, this is where you kind of go up the trajectory and are very quickly expanding your business. You see repeat sales. And the most important component here is your business is actually profitable. We do find that a lot of businesses can have the scenario where they're functioning, but they're actually not very profitable. And that's a problem. It can be related to pricing. It can be related to your strategy and the way that you sell. You can have very long sales cycles. But the most important piece here is if you want a successful business, well, part of that and one of the most important components is it profitable and is it really making money? Typically at this stage also, you're setting up your initial team and your back office systems are already in place. And then the final stage is the scaling and growth stage. This is when you really are a business fully. Your team is typically a lot larger. These are the stages that you're raising large sums of money, and especially within the tech sector. And your ultimate goal is something that you need to think about. What is your true vision and mission at this point? How are you iterating or layering different business models for your future state as a business? And this is also where you start to see much more cultural change within an organization because your team is growing at such a significant pace. This is also an opportunity to celebrate. There aren't that many companies that get to a scaling stage. And I think it's important as entrepreneurs to remember that there is always a time and a place for celebration as well. It's a hard journey, and it is not something that everybody can do. So this is definitely a component of that. Take the time to celebrate and really reflect back on the journey that you would have experienced as an entrepreneur. I'm going to take a pause here, and Jordan, are there any questions that may have come through?
No questions yet, unless anyone is typing any right now. I can watch the chat box. Nothing so far.
Well, this was sort of the component where I wanted to launch a poll and just to see sort of as you were thinking through these stages, where are you at? What stage do you believe that your business is at currently? All right, we can probably close the survey, but I can see there's quite a few actually at the scaling and growth stage, which is phenomenal. And then the remainder sort of fall below the validation line. And the reason this is very interesting is because we've, as MaRS, because we provide centralized services to all of the regional innovation centers, we actually collect data also on all of the entrepreneurs across the province. And we have an entire data team dedicated to analyzing those results. And what's interesting is that across the regional innovation centers, 74% are actually at the validation stage and below. And this is where most of our online free and accessible services are dedicated to, because those entrepreneurs tend to have the most needs in formulating the foundations of their business and really ensuring that they're set up for success. But when we look at data this is data from PitchBook, and when we look at across Canada and we sort of extrapolate and segment by stage, it's about 23,000 companies that are across Canada that are at that validation and below stage. So over the next few slides, as I talk about different products, you will see the actual classification of what stage it's really appropriate for. So make the choice for yourself really and think about, have I already completed this component? Have I, for example, validated my market? Do I know enough about my market size? Am I good at pitching? And do I know how to pitch properly? So think about those components as well in terms of your personal reflection in your skill level that you believe you're at, but also know that the products, the way that they are created, they are meant to be for a really targeted group at a specific stage in the growth of a company. So ideation, discovery, validation, efficiency, and scale.
Neda, we do have a question in the chat box now for you. So someone is wondering, how does this all apply to services or products being made available online and worldwide?
Yeah, so it's exactly what I had just said. So the products that are available online, everything that I talk about, especially within the MaRS Startup Toolkit, it's completely available. So if you feel that you'd like to learn about a particular concept that is really targeted to the validation stage, but you are at a discovery or ideation, it might be too early for you to spend the time and really make it worthwhile for you to dedicate that to doing that work. And it would be most impactful to you and really most useful to you to do it at the stage that you actually should be considering those components. So here, I'll go a little bit forward in my slide deck, but something to show you is, so something like this, all of our on-demand courses, they are dedicated at specific stages. So if you're talking about startup talent and you're hiring lots of people, typically that's at the validation stage when you're doing that. At discovery or ideation, you're not really going to be hiring lots of people and need to know policy and regulations on hiring or need to know about contracts. So this is where I just want you to know that there are certain things that you probably don't need to care about all at once. So be strategic in terms of what you are prioritizing your time on, and don't try to solve all problems at once. Take it step by step and really think about what is going to be most impactful to your business to move it forward in the growth plan. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. If a question ever is not answered or not the way you'd like, you can always follow up in the chat box and we can try to re-ask it as well.
Excellent. Okay, I'm just going to quickly scroll back, but the different delivery methods that we have that are the accessible formats for any entrepreneur, and this is worldwide really, so our resources are available online, and they're meant to complement other resources that you're gaining already access to. So if you are an Innovation Wealth client, I do encourage you definitely utilize all of the services that they are already providing, whether it's advisory or workshops. And these are meant to complement that. They're not a replacement, they're not the end all be all, and they are definitely something to just help you in your journey and to support you through the different challenges that you have. So online, in terms of how we're able to support companies, is through our Startup Toolkit, which is a collection of contributed content from different experts we have within our community. And that's across Canada and even some US experts who contribute to us tools and templates and different articles or even videos that indicate to you what you might want to do on a particular topic. So there's topics on IP and contract templates, or even some of the templates on interviewing customers, HR type templates. So on retention, if you're having retention issues, there's lots of information available in there. It's over 1,700 assets, I think, last time I checked. So it's a lot of resources that are available under different classifications and categories. So a simple Google search will likely show you exactly what you're looking for to find, or simply accessing the site will also provide you with that same information. And then we provide also on-demand self-guided programs. These are courses, essentially, that are built for entrepreneurs. It is always our persona that we build specifically for a target individual, whether it be a founder or an individual that is an employee within a startup that would typically be executing the work. So in the example of startup talent, oftentimes we see an early HR hire doing some of that work. And most of the time, though, it's really the founder hiring some of those first few people. And then the third component online that we have is actually an entire collection that's dedicated to international growth. So for those of you thinking about going beyond Canadian borders, which I highly encourage you to do, regardless of the business that you're in, Canada is a small market. So think about how you're scaling beyond Canadian borders and really what are the different considerations that you should have. So we talk about things like finding product market fit in a new market. How do you know that you have reached that? We also have different templates and guides on thinking through your strategy. And we have an entire digital program also dedicated to accelerating your global expansion. Now, one thing that I wanted to also mention is that the way we work with lots of the regional innovation centers, and this includes Innovation Guelph, is we do have exclusive components that are dedicated just for their clients. And those typically tend to be the higher valued types of experiences that are allocated for later stage companies. So things like practical sessions or master classes or ask me anythings, small group advisory sessions where you're in a very, very tight-knit group with an expert and you're talking about a specific topic, or even peer-to-peer opportunities. Those are all allocated for exclusive clients of different regional innovation centers. And we normally do stick to, like, for example, just Innovation Guelph clients being a part of one group, as opposed to mixing lots of different regional innovation centers within an offering. I would say that also the exclusive components to RIC clients include more services that are offered through MaRS. I'm not going to talk about them in this presentation, but I just want to inform you of market intelligence services as an example that provide you with data that will enable you to make data-driven decisions for your business. So for example, if you are unsure about your target market and the size, there is databases that MaRS has access to that will enable you to find validated quality data to make those decisions and inform also even your pitch decks to have real data that an investor will trust. All right, so this is what, when you go onto the MaRS Startup Toolkit, I will provide, and Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this deck will be shared with everybody afterwards. So you will see all the links, so no need to write anything. This is all going to be accessible to you. But the Startup Toolkit is divided into different collections of resources. So we have an entire COVID-19 collection that assists you through the challenges you may have faced this year, as well as the challenges that you might face moving forward, especially with the return to work. And then there's lots of other topics that are related to your different challenges at the different stages. So people ops, for example, when we talk about company culture, and if you're at the efficiency and scale stages, what does that look like? How do you change company culture, especially if at the early stages, you know, the typical bro culture that can get created at a tech startup? How do you start to evolve that and change it and be more inclusive and diverse? There's lots of resources on that. Operations, sales, product, IP, you name it, there's lots of different resources there. The International Growth Collection is another one. I think Jackie might have a question. No? All right. So the International Growth Collection is the other resource that includes all of our international resources. So there's videos even in there with some high caliber experts. For example, we interviewed Fernando, who is the International Growth Director and VP at Shopify. And he gives some really, really great insights. He previously was at Google. So he tells you about pricing, about the tactics and the strategies and the steps you should take to international expansion. And there's, like I said, lots of other practical resources within this. And the easiest way to be notified about anything net new is through a registration to the Startup Toolkit newsletter, is then through the MaRS website. But what this will enable you to do is to get access to the top things we're publishing. We curate it on a topic, and that's how you'll know exactly what is coming out and that you can leverage the latest and greatest of the resources that we have. On the on-demand side, there are 10 different on-demand courses available through the Startup Toolkit. Some of them are paid for public users, and others are free. If you are an Innovation Wealth client, all of them are for free for you. So you will not have to pay for any of them. There's just a discount code. Connect with Mickey or Jordan, and they'll be able to provide you with that discount code for you to get access. But like I said, we cover different topics based on the Marmer venture stages. So all the way at the very early ideation stages, we talk about just 101 type foundational knowledge. Like, how do I start a business? How do I register my business? How do I start to think about my idea, who it's for, and the market size that I will potentially be able to tap into? Into the discovery stages, we talk a lot about the validation of different components, your business model. We talk about sales. And then this is where you later start to think about the investment into your company. How are you going to fund it? How are you going to actually have enough money and a runway to get to those later repeatable sales that can then really by themselves support your company and make you profitable? I've just included some of the other courses. Now, two things I want to just mention. So there's two specific programs that are on demand that also have an exclusive component to Regional Innovation Center clients. The B2B sales for founders, which is meant for founder-led sales. So if you are that founder that right now is juggling 17 different hats, one of them being sales, this is sort of the program for you. It helps you figure out your sales process. It helps you understand the different tactics for cold and warm calling, how to reach out to prospects, how to qualify prospects, and ultimately how to close and negotiate. So there's lots of practical assets already available through the program, but we actually offer 2 master classes that are only accessible if you are an Innovation Wealth client. And those master classes, one focuses on the conversation to qualify a prospect, and the other one focuses on the conversation of negotiating for the close of a deal. Those are the 2 areas we find founders have the biggest problems in and the toughest challenges, because let's face it, as Canadians, we tend to be known and are quite nice. And oftentimes that leads to some tough situations in sales conversations. And this is where our experts come into play and help you sort of have the right conversations, have the right structure, and also ask the right questions that will help you close that deal and negotiate more effectively. And the other program is the Pitching to Investors. That one also has a masterclass that is exclusive to Innovation Wealth clients, and it's specifically focused on your practice of the pitch. So we have an expert available to you. It's very, very small group, so only up to 3 people can register per month into that masterclass, but it's highly, highly effective in terms of having that expert give you direct feedback. They are an investor, they've been through the investment process themselves, and they can give you really great feedback on your pitch. Does it resonate? Do you have the right information? What are things you should change? Maybe move around certain information or clarify certain components, or even emphasize certain things that really, really stick and help you with winning over an investor. I'll pause there. Are there any questions?
I have a 2-part question for you. So on-demand courses aside, as you mentioned, Innovation Wealth clients get access with a special code through Nikki or myself. Could you speak to the cost or lack thereof for the other components that you've talked about for Innovation Wealth clients and non-RIC clients as well?
Yeah, so the cost is always consistent, and it's only select opportunities that are fairly new that we haven't introduced. So the customer development immersive, as an example, is a paid program. And it's because it has a lot of tactical and practical assets included in it. So you get access to a Google Drive folder with a bunch of different templates, top questions to ask in interviews, and even an entire spreadsheet for how to organize your data. And always the cost for any of our programs is $35 to get lifetime access. So whatever you register into, you get full access to all of the resources in there, and you can always refer back to them at any point in time. One thing that I'll mention, so for Regional Innovation Center clients, all of the online components are completely free, but even any of the exclusive components are also completely free. So you never have to worry about taking out your precious cash flow to pay for any of these opportunities. They're meant to be there as supports for you and to help you through your journey. So you don't have to worry about that. Just simply connect with Mickey and Jordan, and they'll be able to give you the right access codes where necessary, or wherever there is an opportunity that's available and exclusive, you'll automatically have free access. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely.
For both parts?
You covered it all. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions for now?
I think we're okay for now.
All right. I wanted to talk about the latest program that we actually released so that you get a bit of an idea of what really one of these experiences can really look like. So the Startup Talent program that we just released is a validation stage program, because that is when you're usually raising your pre-seed or seed round and you're starting to hire your first few employees. They're the critical employees that essentially build your business and that will get you to the next stage of efficiency. That program takes you through all of the steps that you need to take to hire a great person for your company. So all the way from the strategy and the plan to figuring out how much am I going to pay this person? Should I offer any equity? What are the right conversations to have and not to have? What are questions I'm allowed to ask in an interview versus not allowed to ask in an interview? And including all of the legalities. So in terms of contracts, what are the right components to include within a contract so that you protect your IP, as an example? So it is completely self-directed. There are lots and lots of templates, but it is also meant to be the type of program, and this is across the board with all of our on-demand courses, where if you already know and have the knowledge of a certain component within the program, you're able to actually skip over pieces and get to the component that's actually most relevant to you and to your needs. And the way we do that is we split up content into different modules and what we call modules within our learning management system. So for example, for this program, there are actually 3 different components and 3 modules that are dedicated to it. The first one is planning your hiring strategy. The second one is attracting and sourcing and engaging. And then the third part is onboarding, actually the individuals that you hire. So oftentimes, and what we've seen even from data, most entrepreneurs kind of skip to the second part. But what's interesting is after they skip to the second part, they revert back to the first part because they realize they may have not gotten all of the components of their HR and hiring strategy right. So we know right now it's really tough to find technical talent. And so for those of you who are in that boat, everybody's experiencing it. But in the program, we do actually provide some resources as well of effective either tactics to attract technical and highly skilled talent, like sales. Within sales, it tends to be a high topic area, as well as technical talent. And we also include great boards or networks and meetup groups and opportunities where you can tap into this type of talent and really get to know that community so that you can more effectively recruit them. I would say that one thing that I've noticed that entrepreneurs tend to miss is sort of that onboarding plan and thinking through actually how are you going to set up an employee for success, especially knowing that they will be juggling multiple different hats when they join your team at the early stages. So we focused on that module as well to ensure that your people and whoever you're hiring is going to be ready to take on the challenges they need to and really feel supported, engaged, and ready to be motivated by your mission and to be working for you. And then this is just additional detail on the masterclasses I spoke to for the B2B sales for founders and the pitching to investors. They are offered at different times. And the way that you'll learn about them is when you register into each of these programs, we actually proactively send you a calendar invite for the opportunities. So you'll know about them down the line. You can go in them as many times as you need to. So if maybe you test out something and you join the negotiating and handling objections masterclass, but then you feel like, you know what, that kind of worked out, but I feel like I need another conversation to refine my tactics. It's okay to keep joining these calls and conversations so that they really help you in refining that pitch and how you're taking your conversations with prospects. All right, so I talked about the top problem that usually causes startups to fail, and that is building something people really want. So what I wanted to do here is to give you the top resources that you can access specifically to this problem. And there are two other ones that are at the top of the list that usually lead entrepreneurs down a failing path. This first one is the most important. This is the thing that you need to figure out right at the start and ensure that you are building something that actually has demand, that has a good sized customer base, and most importantly, that they're willing to dip into their pocket, take out money, and pay you for it. And if none of those happen, you don't have a business. That is sort of what the end result ends up being. And it can lead down some really stressful paths. So from the toolkit, focus on the product, the design, the strategy side, and this is where you'll see a lot of assets focused on business modeling, talking to customers, and really gaining insights from the customer themselves. On the digital self-guided programs, Entrepreneurship 101 is sort of the foundational program. If you are already an entrepreneur, there might be components in there that you learn that are new, but I would say it's really for the individual that has never been an entrepreneur. But the other programs that we have, like the customer development immersive, the business model validation, pitching to investors, and the introduction to market sizing, all of those programs will help you in really answering this core problem and trying to solve for it. For those of you who are clients of Innovation Guelph, we do have specific sessions that are also dedicated to this problem, specifically on the business model and customer discovery, customer segmentation as well, and how you're targeting different customers. And then of course, the pitch practice masterclass in terms of how are you communicating your value proposition and talking about your business to people. The second problem that often causes failure within a startup is having enough runway and money. Money is a big problem. Everybody cares about it within the entrepreneur space. There are lots of resources out there for you to tap into, but specifically through MaRS and the content and programming that we have, there is quite a few collections that are focused on creating your runway and having enough money. So from a marketing and sales perspective, if you're generating profit, that's a great way to be sustainable within your business. And usually when you really want to exponentially scale is when you want to tap into additional funds, whether it's through grants or bank loans or VCs, which is a very common path for tech companies. And we do have different resources on finances, funding. If you're not sure and you've never done like financial planning and runways for companies and sort of done a cash flow sheet, there are resources for that as well for you to really build that out. And then on the self-guided side, it's all of the programs listed that will help you, again, have a good story to tell to an investor, pitch it the right way, but also start to think about how you yourself are sustaining the business. So sales is an important part, and having also the right communication and marketing strategies. On the Innovation Guelph exclusive side, we do have specific products and programs dedicated just for this problem as well. So things like a capital strategy and figuring out what will that look like, how much money are you going to need actually as a business, and what are the sources that you're going to tap into. And then all of the other products are, again, just dedicated to this. So like product marketing, finding product market fit, sales, all of those components. I should say that Innovation Guelph themselves likely also has lots of resources available to you on this particular problem, because it is such a hard one for many entrepreneurs to solve. So whether it is tapping into something like PitchBook and finding out information about that resource, or tapping into some connections that might be available to angel investors or to other groups that will be at your disposal to really tap into, pitch them, and try to gain some traction on money to sustain your business. And then the last problem that tends to be the downfall of companies is building the right team. And oftentimes we see this happen, whether it is founder to founder relations, and sometimes things don't work out. And other times it is just hiring the wrong people that just don't really lead you to success as a business. This tends to happen at the, I would say, efficiency and scale stages of a business, but sometimes even at the validation when you are starting to build up that initial group. And our resources are right now being developed on a lot of this topic because we see talent as such a crucial point in a journey of a startup. So within the toolkit, you'll find resources on people ops, recruiting, the strategy and leadership side. So how are you as a founder going to lead a company? What are the critical skills that you need to develop? Also people manager skills. Once you start to hire more people and you start to transfer some of those responsibilities, what do they need to know? How can they be enabled and great people leaders that will help your business succeed? And then as we talked about, the self-guided program is a startup talent program. But then on the exclusive side, we do have 2 products that are available just for Innovation Guelph clients. So the Dream Team Session and Growth Strategy. Dream Team is just as it sounds, it's about building your dream team and really thinking about the strategy for how you're going to find those people, what are the values you're going to have as a company, and how you're going to align that to people you hire. And then for growth strategy, it is about your future. So when are you going to potentially get an influx of cash, such as Series A funding? That is usually the moment that you tend to spend that money predominantly on hiring people to build up your team so that you can grow as quickly as possible. I'll pause there. Are there any questions on this?
Nothing yet, but I encourage everybody to post your questions in the chat box if you have them, but we're okay for now.
Excellent. So I did want to highlight that MaRS is one resource. And as a client or as an individual within the community, you have access to so much more. Because like Innovation Guelph is one piece of that puzzle as well, but there is so many other organizations that are providing support in Canada for entrepreneurs. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of those so that it helps you orient. And if you've never heard of them, it might be worthwhile to do a quick Google search and see if there are opportunities for you to leverage some of the help. So the first part is regional innovation centers. So there are 17 of them, as Mickey mentioned at the beginning, and most of them provide fairly similar services, mostly focused on expert advice and mentorship. But I do have to say that specific regional innovation centers do sometimes focus on a niche area. So either it's a niche technology or a niche sector that they have specific expertise in. So an example I can give you is at NORCAT in Sudbury. There's a huge component of mining and the mining industry. I would say that your best bet is to find the location that is closest to your physical address or where your business is located. And that's your typical first step to engaging with the Regional Innovation Center and seeing if there's a fit and if there is actually a way for you to leverage some of their resources. But they're spread out all over Canada, all over Ontario, sorry. But there are also lots of other organizations across Canada that also can assist you. The second one is the Ontario Centre of Innovation, and this is for those of you who are sort of in the IP building technology space. So if you are a company that's working on autonomous vehicles, as an example, they have specific programs and cohorts that they work exclusively on those IP building types of technologies. And it's the same thing. They get you help either to lab space or to testing grounds, or they can give you lots of connections to different investors that are specifically interested in that space. So it's a great way for you to work on your R&D project if that's the stage that you're at, and to get the specific support you need on a niche area that you might be working in. And then there's tons out there on funding support. So like this is just one example, but there's Fundica, there's lots of government support online, there's different organizations that work with angel groups, and it's a plethora of different resources. But what we have found is the funding portal has a tool that you can access online, and they actually curate both Canadian grant opportunities, but also US ones. So you'll be able to do a search and find actually specific to your sector, to your type of technology, and to the location that you're at, what might be available currently for you. And I do really, really encourage you to take advantage of grants, especially, and incentives, because we're lucky to be in Canada. There are lots of these available to entrepreneurs. And that's not the same case across many other countries. So take advantage, fund your business in a fairly safe way. And it's kind of free money. So you should probably take it. It makes it worthwhile. So specific to government support, there are some government sites that you can access and tap into to find all this information as well. So an example is the Canada.ca business site. You can find out about grants, programs, different opportunities that are also available through different Ontario and federal-based incentive programs. So IRAP, as an example, tends to actually post a lot of their information through the government sites. And again, they are one of those resources that you should tap into as an entrepreneur, because it is typically free to you and it's high value. So ISED is the part of the government that actually supports specifically innovation, and a lot of the business support that they have is dedicated to innovation type technologies and innovation within Ontario and Canada. So they have this tool called the Business Benefits Finder. So if you ever like super confused by trying to navigate different government sites, which I will be first to say that I get confused a lot on there because there's just so much going on. But this is a useful tool to just kind of filter out exactly what you need. So as you see in the slides, I've included the link directly to these things, so it'll be pretty easy for you to find them. And then for those of you who are working on IP, patented technologies or ideas, the Canadian Intellectual Property Office is probably your best bet to get some free advice. So they do office hours, they have online support as well, but they also have so many resources online to help you with filing a patent, finding other patents, and doing patent searches, and just understanding the entire process, which can be a little bit confusing. And lastly, and what I wanted to sort of end on is MaRS, of course, as a large organization, we do offer also lots of free events that happen across our community. We feature also events that Innovation Guelph holds, or other regional innovation centers hold. And one of the ones that is actually upcoming is focused on the costs and financing options to succeed in your global expansion. So when you're thinking about going beyond Canadian borders, what are the costs really like, and how are you going to fund that operation? How much money are you going to need to really grow your business beyond borders? It's going to happen on June 24th from 4 to 5 p.m. EST, and it's completely free to register and access. With that, I will pause there, but I'm happy to take any and all questions and give you any guidance that you might need.
Nothing in the chat box yet. So we'll give
Quite a
people
group of
maybe,
people today.
we'll give them a little time to type one out. I have a question, and maybe Mickey can speak to this answer as well too. If we have any friends on the call who are that idea stage, as we mentioned, Innovation Guelph typically supports validation and beyond. What would your suggestion, and Mickey or Neda, whoever wants to answer first, be for people in that idea stage to get them ready for a regional innovation center?
Yeah, my recommendation would actually be to tap into the lots of different accelerators that exist across the region, and also connect with your either local or other university program. So oftentimes, like University of Guelph, as an example, they have accelerators or programs dedicated for fairly early stage entrepreneurs that will help you get to that validation stage. So they'll help you figure out some of the discovery components, your business model, the different partners, and even the influx of initial funds that you can gain through like high net worth individuals, as an example. And that'll really help you get to a stage of some product market fit and being really ready for some of the additional services that innovation centers can provide. Mickey, I don't know if you have a different answer.
Yeah, no, I'll add to that. I think the small business centers in the region, in particular, I'll speak to the one in Guelph Wellington Small Business Center. I think I said that backwards. Small Business Center of Guelph Wellington. They changed about 5 years ago, and I still can't remember the proper order. Christelle will be upset with me. Anyhow, they're fantastic, and they're a great place to go to get your business registered, to figure out those initial kind of steps of getting started. And then once you have I'll say a real business, like once you're in it, and once you're committed to running with it, and getting some validation and working on what that MVP is going to look like, that's when you can come to a regional innovation center, whether it's ours or MaRS or somewhere else. One of these regional innovation centers kind of can pick up and run from there. But it's so important to get that idea worked out and developed before you come to one of our centers. But there are, like Neda said, a lot of opportunities out there to work on that. I think we're part of an organization of close to 200 different accelerators and incubators across Canada. Many of them deal with the idea stage. So if you can't find that help you're looking for, you can reach out to any of us and we'll help make those connections. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. That was awesome.
Is there any questions from anyone else? Oh, Neda, you answered everything and people didn't even have to try.
Well, what I've also included in this deck is an appendix on those exclusive offerings that you can tap into with Innovation Guelph. And I think those are important ones to also consider. They are completely optional at the end of the day. So really, like I said, be strategic with your time. Your time is precious. And as an entrepreneur, you don't have a lot of it. So really focus yourself on what are the top problems you really have, where are the areas you need to work on, and what are the best ways for you to work towards solving those different problems. Oftentimes, the first step is connecting with an advisor or an individual that's knows your business and knows sort of you as well, and can really help you navigate the different challenges that you have.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. And I think so often as anyone hungry to learn, we want to jump in with both feet and do all the courses all at once and learn everything. But I think, Neda, you're right. You've said it a few times, and I think it really resonated, is that choose what you need to learn now. Right? You don't want to get overwhelmed. Choose what you need to learn now, because these courses exist. So as you get growing, as you get kind of moving along that journey, moving along that path, you can take the course later. Mm-hmm. So I like that. In the chat, we added a link. When you were talking about funding opportunities and grants and how important finding this grants, kind of this free money to grow. Sorry. Of course, it's while I'm off mute. The motorcycle decides to go by. Anyhow, I just wanted to say that I added the link to Pocketed. And Neda, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Pocketed, but it is a Canadian company that matches entrepreneurs to grant funding based on AI. So it's a great tool for entrepreneurs to use, and IG clients get expedited to the front of the line. And if anyone on this call is not an IG presentation but would like access to it, just send Jordan and I a note, and we'll likely be able to slide you in to that as well. It is offered free, so it's a free matching device. And I added the link to the funding portal and to the MaRS Toolkit information as well, but we'll be sending you all of this information as a follow-up. We have added, there's some good comments in here. People are loving the support of the centers. It's great food for thought, very practical information. I think it's a lot for all of us. I learned about some courses that I didn't know that you guys even offered. So fantastic. And I really appreciate you being here today, Neda. If there's no more questions, I think we can wrap a little early and give all these entrepreneurs a little bit of more precious time left today. But I really appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, ISU Core, Marexis, Miller Thompson, OKR Financial, Reese Informatica, Investing Wealth, and BDO. If you ever want to get connected with any of these wonderful companies, please let Jordan and I know. We'll make a warm introduction on your behalf. And to SLEO for providing the wonderful ASL interpretation today. I have a question. The IG office in Guelph. The IG office in Guelph will be reopening when it is safe to do so. We're currently following the plans of Health Canada and the public health departments, and we're hoping for sometime in the fall. But we will just have to keep our eye on what the experts say and cross our fingers and hope that we'll all be together in person again someday. But that is the best offer of an answer I can give you right now. So,
Nikki, can I just add one more thing that I think might be useful for those of you, especially at the efficiency and scale stages. Something useful to you to consider is utilizing actually these programs and resources as a personal development opportunity for your employees. So these are not just offerings that we provide for free to you as the founder, but they're actually available to your employees as well. So think about that as an opportunity that is also free to you and that you can leverage. And especially if you're trying to develop certain skill sets within your teams, whether it be in sales or marketing or talent, there is obviously lots available to your employees, and that could be an opportunity for you to leverage so that you create further engagement in your company.
That's a great point. It's a great point, because so often we think, as a solo entrepreneur, it's only us and we can only continue. Even after we get our first employee, second employee, we still are the ones that feel we have to do it all, but we don't have to do it all. And these sessions are excellent for the first hires as well, exactly. or for your team members. So great point, Neda. So if there's no more questions, I think I'm going to remind you about the feedback form link that Jordan has added. We would really love to get your feedback. So if you can provide a quote about how you think today went, give us a rating, tell us how you think today's session was. If you have an idea for another Toolkit Tuesday, leave that for us as well, because it helps us do our planning for the future and continue to provide you with expert information that is helpful for you to grow your company and your business. Okay, so pretty sure that's it from me. So thank you, Neda. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Chris and Chad, our ASL interpreters who've been doing a fantastic job. I wish you all a wonderful, happy, sunny day. Maybe with a few more minutes, you can go outside and go for a walk and get some fresh air before you jump back into learning something else new. All right. So have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you. And thanks for having me.